Okay, welcome into the OTB Open press conference. First up, Paige Pierce. Paige, it's hot out here. I don't know how the weather was in Hawaii. First of all, how was the time off, and how are you preparing for this event this week?
Yeah, it was very hot there as well, but it's quite a bit different. It was very humid there, and here is 0% humidity. It's dry. My lips are chapping. My fingers feel like they need lotion, but obviously that's not what you want to do out here for disc golf. So I think just to prepare is kind of make sure your grip's good. I got my whale sack in my hand all the time. It's not even going in my bag. I'm walking down the fairway with it. So that's probably the biggest preparation, and just staying hydrated. This course is really long, par 70 for the women. So just trying to maintain the energy level and stay hydrated and find shade when you can.
I do want to ask you about the course, but just real quick on the break, you took Dynamic Disc Open off, obviously. Was there something specific you were just kind of doing? Were you just kind of getting ready for the next event? Talk about sort of your mindset in taking that break and then coming back.
Yeah, I've been on the road for 12 seasons now, and so I've just decided that I don't have to play every tournament, and so just take off when I don't feel like I'm fired up about it, when I don't feel inspired. The course in Emporia is a little lackluster in my opinion. Just throw a hyzer as far as you can, and even, bad shots sometimes land in bounds. So I just decided it was one that I could take off, especially considering we're going into Pro Tour, NT, Pro Tour, major Worlds. And so I wanted to kind of give my body a little rest, and was kind of looking for some property, and also had a huge project that I can't discuss right now. But yeah, got a lot of work done, got a lot of putting in, and yeah, just trying to find some balance and take some weeks off before the tour really kicks off. So
I saw you chatting earlier with Leonard Muise, course designer. I know he wants to get the opinions of the pros that are going to play his courses. It's a pretty brutal layout for the FPO division. What are your takeaways, and what did you discuss with him?
Yeah, I told him I love the course. I think that it is, if we're going to play on a ball golf course, this is the kind of course I want to play on. I am not a huge fan of playing on ball golf courses. I think that it's just, there's too much airspace, and that doesn't bring in too much challenge for the players. And also, if spectators are watching that don't know what disc golf is, it just looks too easy. You just see the disc flying, and it's just flying. And so I think traditional disc golf, in my mind, is shaping through trees. So that's why I prefer to not play on ball golf courses. But I told him this is my favorite ball golf course that I've ever played on because of the use of all the trees. There's so many low ceiling shots, there's so many tunnel shots, and so yes, you have that distance, like we talked about, it's par 70, so you have that distance aspect, but it's controlled distance. There are no shots where you can just like absolutely rip it with no repercussions. So I told him that was a huge benefit for me in my mind, but I told him specifically holes 9 and 11 I think should have OB lines, because those are the two holes that are pretty much wide open. No negatives can happen if you spray one. So I told him next year hopefully we can see some OB lines on both of those two holes to keep that controlled distance theme going. And
as far as the shots in your bag, now that you've played this course a couple times for practice, what's the shot that you're kind of thinking at this moment? I really got to rely on that this weekend.
Oh man, honestly, low ceiling power flip ups. You don't want your disc to, your discs really don't skip that much out here, but the grass is really catchy. But yeah, so honestly, I'm just trying to push power hyzers, low ceiling. And sometimes when you're coming up on that hyzer angle, you're coming from low to up. So I really got to make sure I'm coming flat across, because when you come low to up out here with low ceilings, I'm hitting some tree branches. So keeping that in mind, keeping my disc low and level, and I think that'll be the key to success this week.
Chris with Gatekeeper Media. I just have a question. With the West Coast swing, and like you said, ending with a major, is there anything you're changing in your practice routine compared to the beginning of the season, or was it just the time off that you needed?
Yeah, I'm trying to, it's funny saying this to you right now in a press conference, but I'm trying to limit my media stuff right now. Sorry, guys. Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. Disc golf has grown so much, and there's so many media things that we have to do as players, but they kind of take away from practice schedule. So I've been saying no to a lot of interviews, filmed rounds. Somebody wants to film for their YouTube channel. I'm just saying no and focusing on my practice rounds and trying to start leaving my phone in the car. That way, even if there's a backup, I'm not just on my phone. I'm still in the disc golf mindset. I'm still trying to keep my mental game good, and basically just eliminate all other distractions. Basically, is the difference for me.
Awesome. And what hole are you looking to attack the most here this weekend?
Oh man, I think it will be. I think it's hole 14 or 15. Is it 15? I'm sorry. It blends together for me, but it's the one where you throw over the water on the first shot, and the second shot's under the big oak trees. You have to again throw hyzer over the water. You can kind of lay up a shot if you want to just pinch off a little bit of distance. You can pitch a hyzer barely over the water, but then it makes your second shot really hard, and it's not really attackable. So I'm trying to push the water quite a bit more on the right side so that I can get the easy 3.
All right, Mahmood, do you have anything for Paige?
Hey, Paige. So at the challenge at Goat Hill last weekend, Lisa Fajkus became the 7th different FPO player to win an event this year. How cool is that for you to see, like, 7 different, I don't think 7 different women have ever won a tournament at an elite level event in 1 year. What's that like for you as a competitor? And does it kind of fire you up because you haven't won your second one yet this year?
Yeah, it totally does. I mean, I think that it just goes to show you how many different women are capable of winning a tournament. And I've talked about this before, but any single one of the women that are signed up for this tournament are capable of shooting the hot round. But to go out and to do it 3 rounds in a row or 4 rounds in a row at some tournaments is a whole different ball game. So congrats to Lisa. Awesome win last weekend. And yeah, congrats to Haley at DDO. That was awesome to watch. I got to watch that live coverage, and it was really cool to see her separate herself at the end of the battle. It was really tight all the way through, and then with like 4 or 5 holes to play, she just really put her foot on the gas. So I think it's incredible to see the parity in the women's division, and I'm looking to get that second one this weekend.
Thank you, Paige.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paige.
All right.
Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That whole time?
Now here with Katrina Allen, who is your defending FPO champion of formerly the San Francisco Open, now the OTB Open. First of all, welcome back to Northern California, and how you feeling this week?
Good. Thank you. Yeah. I was like, wait, I'm not defending. And then I forgot that this replaces San Francisco. Okay.
Yeah, we could carry the title, right?
For sure. Yeah.
It's a very different course, though.
Yeah.
Wondering about your kind of first impressions now that you've gotten to play it practice round. I saw you doing a round on camera earlier. What are your kind of initial impressions of how you're going to attack?
It's awesome, I think. Getting to throw some rollers, I always enjoy two-shot holes. I think I've talked about that before. Placement shots and risk-reward shots. So I'm excited. Yeah.
We're sort of kind of getting into a rhythm of the season now, more events week in, week out, and that follows a trend in the broader sport where we're asking more and more of players like yourself. How are you handling kind of that touring pressure as it mounts, all the media attention, all the every weekend on and off? Just kind of talk about life on the road now.
Yeah. So I felt bad because last weekend is Women's Global event, and as, a co-founder of Respect Her Game and, a female pro. So I actually took the weekend off to spend time with my family, friends, and see my mom and things like that. So, because knowing that it was going to be, Disc Golf Pro Tour, and then major NT Disc Golf Pro Tour, and then Worlds and events before that. So I'm feeling good. I mean, I had a vacation in Mexico before, weekend with friends, so I think I'm ready for the grind. Yeah.
And kind of last question, as you see more of these courses getting longer and longer and longer, I'm just curious as to your thoughts. I mean, obviously you're a very good player off of the tee, so do you feel like the way this course design is kind of iterating and evolving, is it to your advantage? Is it to the whole field's advantage? What's your take on that?
I did actually say, and I always try to stay within my game, because maybe I have the advantage, that can also mean you can get into more trouble and things like that. But I did notice I was throwing driver a lot, throwing rollers to get some distance with the low ceiling. So yes, I have the advantage, but that still means you got to execute, and you still got to throw that second shot when you do execute the first shot. So yeah, but my scramble game and putting feels great, so I think I'll be okay.
Hi.
Hi.
2 questions. Chris with Gatekeeper. First, you have a very successful start to the season. Have you changed anything in your prep, routine, or anything?
No, I mean, I had a great off season, and like I was saying, I kind of am taking weekends off that maybe I normally wouldn't. As I've gotten older and been on tour longer, I can see the grind kind of getting me. So I think maybe that is also helping, where it feels kind of weird to take 4 days off of not throwing the disc. I still get up and work out, but it kind of feels good too. So I think that's kind of been helping, and just my support system and my mindset. I feel like I have really good close friends, and my fans are awesome, and yeah, I just feel like really positive and confident.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What hole are you most excited to attack?
I executed the tee shot on 18 today during our filmed round, and was really hoping to get the second roller down to get the eagle look, but I feel like any of those holes where I get to throw a roller, or just, a shot that, I do appreciate the Disc Golf Pro Tour maybe making some holes shorter for us, or, making sure it's better for our scores, but it is fun to be throwing 2-shot holes and drivers and rollers, so I'm really just excited to play the course in general.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Mahmood, do you have anything?
Yeah, Katrina, as one of probably the best roller thrower of all time, how excited because I've been hearing all week from players on the ground that this is a low ceiling course. Low ceiling shots are going to be super important.
Yes,
I
even
answered this with Jamie earlier, but how many times are you throwing a roller on this course? How big of an advantage is that here, as opposed to DDO where everything's kind of in the air?
Right. I do think the one thing, I do agree, it is a lot of low ceiling, and the roller will definitely be an advantage. However, I have heard it gets extremely windy here, which I also enjoy playing in the wind. But if the winds are down and it's the right time, I am stoked to throw rollers. And it is, I did hear someone else saying on the putting green, throwing far here is nice, but you still have to throw low and execute the shot, and I also agree with that too. So.
All right, cool. And one last question. At Jonesboro, you were the best putter in the entire field by strokes gained. It got a little windier at DDO, and your strokes gained wasn't quite as high. What's it going to take to get back to the Jonesboro level where you're, far and away the best putter in the field that weekend?
I thought I putted really well at DDO with the conditions. I don't really remember having a putting round that I felt bad about. I maybe just didn't have as many looks as I had at Jonesboro, so maybe the stats don't add up, but when I look back and think about a lot of the putts I made, I feel really great and confident about the way I putted there. So I just think the second round at Jonesboro was so good, and there was a lot of outside the circle putts, but I do remember just making a lot of putts I needed to make at DDO, and so I'm just going to keep that rolling, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I was looking at the stats at DDO, and I was like, Katrina putted way better than these stats are showing, so I totally get
I know that the stats can kind of...
Thank you so much, Katrina.
Yeah, and sometimes, I know it's just a 20-footer, but when it's, to make sure you don't lose a stroke and the wind's ripping in your face, it still feels good. Good?
Cool. Yeah, thank you, Katrina.
Okay, thank you. See ya. Oh, I'll be the youngest player on the card tomorrow.
Here with your Dynamic Disc Open champion from just a couple weeks ago, Paul McBeth, fresh off of a practice round. So let's cut right to the chase, man. What did you read out there? How's the course playing? What do you think?
It's hot. Definitely hot out there, but luckily we got a lot of big trees, so a lot of shade. It was I feel like the wind was a little different today. It wasn't carrying the disc like it had been the previous practice days. So it could just be that I already got a couple rounds in and a little tight, but I think it's a little different out there today. So it was good to get that in, and just so many rollers. I feel like so many rollers off the tee. It's a long course, but they utilize the big trees they have here really well.
Yeah, and obviously a very long course and a tough course like Glen Eagles, the course that this tournament is replacing on the Pro Tour. Hard to make too many comparisons to it. Would you agree with that, or what do you find similar and different?
It's a lot flatter here. Terrain's not as up and down, and I hear it's going to be really windy, but yesterday it said it was 14 to 15 mile per hour winds, but it did not feel like it. So really curious to see what windy is out here compared to Glen Eagles. Probably nowhere close, and I mean, coming off the DDO, probably nothing close to that either. So I think it'll be fun, and they try to utilize the hillsides they have here with the baskets on them, but haven't seen too many crazy rollaways or anything like that yet. So hopefully it continues that way into the tournament.
Yeah, you mentioned the DDO. I mean, there's kind of two ways to look at it. One school of thought is, hey, Paul McBeth didn't get his first win until April, May in the year. The other way, to look at it is, once again, paired up with the best players in the world on the final round, that super card. You came out with the victory. What's your biggest takeaway coming off of that?
Putting. I think putting. I mean, I had a win. I had a couple wins before that, if you want to count Memorial or the Pro Tour champion, or not the championship, the All-Star event. Yeah, so I mean, I had a good start, but kind of couldn't bring home the win early on in the year. I think the biggest takeaway from the DDO is the putting. I think if you want to find me on the leaderboard, just go look at the putting stats and you'll know where I'm sitting. So if I can get my putts to go in the basket, especially the edge of the circle and outside the circle, that'll be the biggest factor. I think last week, even at Huck Central, it was Chris and I and MJ battling, and I had about probably the final 6 holes, I had 30 footers or so, and I only made 2 of them. Chris made, I think, his last 10 putts in a row, so I just had to knock 1 more down, and I wouldn't have been in a playoff. So kind of got me to refocus going into this week.
Last question for me. We just talked to both Paige and Katrina, who have talked about taking weekends off and kind of selecting their spots. Mm-hmm. You went out and played a very cool course for the Huck Central, as you said, but you're on that weekend, and you do have to compete at a high level against Chris Dickerson, MJ. Is that a factor that it helps you kind of get that putting stat back to where you want? Or are you looking to dial anything in, or are you just having fun without the pressure of a full tour?
No, I mean, I think it's a good wake-up call. I mean, I feel like Chris and I are 2 players in the top 5. I don't think Goat Hill had that. I think they had Ricky there, and there were some other players that were maybe top 10, but it was good to have someone like Chris there, because we knew we were going to be close and battling all week. So it's good, I think, for the year, and try to see where we need to work on. So for me, again, that 30-foot range is what kind of kept me from getting that win. But also I think it helps for me, because it's not a long course. It's more like mid-ranges and putter. I think that really saw what I'm going to need to focus on when I go to De La. Here, to be honest, I have 2 mid-ranges in my bag, and that's more than I need. I mean, this course is all drivers every hole, so that's not a good indication on how I'm going to throw the disc, but it's a good indication of what I need to work on the putting green.
Paul, Chris with Gatekeeper Media. I have 2 questions. The first one, being so successful at Emporia and having so much experience there, is there any change to your play, your mindset, or your practice rounds when you come to a new course like this on the Elite Tour?
No, I feel like I'm pretty successful in California too. Coming, pretty much home. This isn't home, I mean, quite a ways, but my home state. So I feel like I usually play well in California. I'm so used to the terrain growing up out here on the West Coast, so it's different. Like I said, I have 2 mid-ranges in my bag because I know the ground play, I know all that stuff, especially being on a golf course as well. Yeah, I think I have a good track record here in California.
Awesome. Last question: what hole are you most excited to attack this weekend?
I think I've been asked this question a little bit outside of this. Is I don't see one signature hole here. I think they're all challenging. I think I need to be on my game on every hole. There's not really somewhere I can slip up, because if you do, you're in a green. You could be in the water. I don't think there's any bunkers out here, actually, now that I think about it. I don't think there's any sand traps. So, yeah, one little mistake, you can be in the water on a green. So it's a good, solid course. But if I had to pick one, I think the one that I really need to focus on, I think, is 12 or 13, somewhere around there. It's par 3. I don't know the number.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to throw it to Mahmood for any questions.
Hey, Paul. I was just wondering if you could give us an update on the Paul McBeth Foundation course in La Paz, right? Can you give us an update on that course and how it's going?
Well, the court, I mean, nothing's been done there. The baskets have made it. The discs have made it. You know, we were kind of worried there because they were stuck in Tijuana for about 3 or 4 weeks. So they finally made it, I think, last week while we were at the Dynamic Disc Open. And the whole team, well, I shouldn't say the whole team. A lot of the team is heading down there on Monday, which is when I head out to San Francisco to go down there as well. So we're going to get down there. Show up to the property, I think, Tuesday morning, look at the terrain, look at the property that we have to work on, and start to lay out a course design, and then get to work, put the gloves on, and start getting this course in and designed. And, yeah, so everything's ready to go. We just got to get there.
That's awesome, dude. And just a follow-up to that, is that course, are you thinking of it as a place where like a pro tour event could maybe be in a few years, or is this more, let's kind of build the roots here in Mexico and maybe more beginner friendly?
This first 9 is definitely going to be beginner friendly because we haven't seen the property in person. We've seen some drone footage and stuff like that. I don't know how much land we have. So it'll be beginner friendly. We're going to introduce disc golf to them. Hopefully they take to it. The staff likes it. The kids like it. And the community itself likes it, to where, who knows, I think if they do have the land, we could design something there that will be pro tour caliber. But we will see once we get there on Tuesday, and I'm sure I'll answer this question of how it went and what the potential could be at Santa Cruz.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. I'm personally looking really forward to seeing how that course lays out. And one last question for you. I don't know how much of the Goat Hill coverage you got to watch, but Ricky looked really dangerous. I would say, to use the Johnny Manziel term. What does it do to you and your motivation to see him playing the way he's been playing, especially at Goat Hill, where he's jamming everything, getting eagles, and keeping up with AB distance-wise?
I didn't hear the end of that, but no, he's playing great. He's playing good right now, and I think Goat Hill it's a golf course. I've played it years ago, and I know it's a lot of up and down terrain, but not much OB out there from what I remember. I think you could just throw it, and the more distance you have, the better you are, and if you can control your up shots coming into the greens, and then if you are off, 60, 65 feet, and you can bang that putt, you're gonna move up that leaderboard, if not get way out ahead. So I didn't watch all the coverage. I think just the final day when it was getting kind of close, because I was at the Huck Central and playing that, and I had quite a drive back home. But yeah, that course I think is one you can just throw the disc and scramble if need be. So this one I think is going to be a little bit different, but also has that golf course element of just going out and ripping. I actually see Simon way over there, so I'm curious how hard he's going to be throwing this weekend. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, no problem. I'm all done. Sweet.
Now here with Ricky Wysocki, who is your defending San Francisco Open champion, now with a new venue. First of all, welcome back to Northern California, and how you feeling this week?
Feeling great. It's great to be back to the kind of San Francisco Open. Now it's the OTB Open, but it's great to be back in this part of California and playing disc golf, and great weather, great courses. No matter what the venue is, we got a great venue here in Swenson Park, so I'm excited.
Yeah, give us your first take on it. We've been hearing a lot of rollers, a lot of low ceilings. Are you vibing with that description, or what do you take away?
Yeah, I think that the roller game is definitely on point this week. I threw a lot of rollers warming up in practice, and I think that's going to be a key factor in being able to score well. You have to throw 550-foot rollers to get in a position on these par fours to have high percentage upshot. So I think it depends on the wind, but the rollers are going to definitely be a common shot for me, depending on the wind, as long as there's not too many headwinds. But yeah, these par fours and fives are rollers off the tee.
Yeah, and now that this venue has changed away from the Glen Eagles course that hosted the San Francisco Open, you have good history there. Podium both times it's been run, obviously the win last year. Do you feel like it's an easily translatable scenario out here, or are you going to have to do something that's different to get up and get the win?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's for me, it's just same prep, same routine that I'm going through to feel ready for any tournament. But yeah, the course suits my game really well. I mean, I stay at a lot of courses, and I think Goat Hill, I wouldn't say exactly like last week, doesn't fit my game to a T, just because it's straight only distance. Where I have distance, but I have other shots too. Whereas this course is distance, but then it requires shot shaping as well on top of that. It's not just distance, which Goat Hill is pretty much just a distance contest. This is a good combination of distance and angle control.
Well, I mean, you're winning on the putting green. You winning, as you just called it, a distance contest last weekend, man. How much longer are you going to play at this crazy high level? This is fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. Is that's the challenge when you get to this level that I'm at right now, is maintaining and sustaining it. And so that's the challenge that I'm challenging myself with, is trying to get myself to stay at this level. And I'm practicing. I'm doing everything I can, health and wellness wise, with my routine, with my field work, with my putting reps, to be able to stay here. And so that's, as an athlete, you get here, that's one goal, and then it's another goal to stay here. And so that's my goal right now. I'm working on that, and I'm going to be going and trying to showcase the fact that I can stay here this week.
Awesome. Chris with Gatekeeper Media, I have a couple questions. First off, being so successful in the beginning of the year, I know you mentioned at Jonesboro you were working on your reach back a lot in your practice rounds. Could you just go into detail, one or two things that you've really focused on in your actual form and game?
Yeah, it's a great question. So yeah, basically in my reach back and in my form, I've been incorporating this new thing where I'm actually reaching back and actually looking at my angle before I throw. So that just allows me to make sure that I'm hitting the angle on the reach back and then on the follow through coming forward. So most people, it's a pretty unique thing that I'm working on, and I think it's been paying off. I'm seeing a lot more consistency with my drives and my angle control. But yeah, the number one thing is just reaching back on the angle and looking back when I'm reaching back to make sure I'm on the angle that I want to come forward. So that's been a game changer for me, and I'm excited to continue doing that. When I get under pressure, throwing clutch drives down the stretch of a tournament, that really is helping me out.
Awesome. And last question, what hole are you most excited to attack here today? Or this weekend, I should say. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun holes. I mean, hole one right off the gate is an awesome shot. It's definitely wind depending, but it's a roller or a big flex ante, a distance shot, and you really want to start off with a good score there, trying to get maybe at least I would like to get 2 out of 3 birdies on the weekend, and I'd be happy with that. But I think that's the kind of what I'm looking for. Is I'm looking for high percentage birdies on these holes, and I think that obviously I want to birdie every hole every time, but if I can say, all right, I want to at least get 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 3 on some of the harder holes, birdies for the weekend. That's the kind of stuff I'm going to be thinking of, trying to get a good score throughout the week. And like I said, a lot of birdies to be had out here, but some holes out here, pars aren't too bad either. So you got to kind of pick and choose your spots, as opposed to most courses it's attack all the time. This is a kind of a pick and choose your spot type of course.
Awesome. And one more question. I know you were messing with adding a couple new molds in your bag. I saw you. Was it the Invictus from Innova?
Yep.
What slot does that fill out here at this being a driver type of course?
Yeah. So it's kind of like between a Destroyer and a Firebird. It goes a little bit further than a Firebird, but it doesn't go quite as far or skip as much as a Destroyer. So it's going to be nice coming in. There's a good amount of sidearms coming into these greens. A lot of slopes. It's not too much elevation, but some of the baskets are perched up on hills and skipping off the green with the Invictus towards the basket. And so, yeah, it's just a lower speed than a Destroyer and that more controllable. And I think that it's going to be a good distance control disc for me out here. Some Peninsula greens, but mostly sidearm and maybe some backhand flex shots here and there. But I'm excited about the Invictus, a lower speed Destroyer kind of deal.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, Mahmoud, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, Ricky. So, I've been covering all these tournaments, and especially like at Goat Hill, it's so fun to watch you play right now. You're playing with just a lot of joy. It's a lot of long putts, rapid breaks. It's really fun to watch. Is it as fun to play this good as it is to watch? Like, what does it feel like for you when you're out on the course?
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun out here. I mean, I think with all the emotions that I'm playing with, it translates out on the course, and I'm just kind of playing free. I think that's when I play my best. I'm smiling. I'm still, business when it's game time and it's time to grind out a tournament and put myself in position to win. I'm doing that mentally, but on the outside, it's awesome to get the fans' support. I think that's a big part of it. Feeding off the fan energy. Make a long putt, you get the fans incorporated, you get to give them some raptor legs, give them a couple smiles here and there, and so I think that's the most important thing is enjoying the energy from the crowd, and I'm really excited and it's motivation. You want to get that energy, so you got to get a birdie and you got to earn it from the crowd. So that's a pretty exciting little challenge for the players.
Awesome, dude. And just one more follow-up coming off of Goat Hill. You got to play with Brody Smith twice on lead cards, not feature cards, but like lead cards because Brody got up there. What was it like playing with Brody on those lead cards? And what was your impression of his play?
Yeah, he's playing solid, and he's dedicating himself and putting a lot of work in. And it also goes to show that you don't just get to the top of the game and top of the sport and stay there. You gotta put in work time and time again to maintain a lead card, feature card throughout the tournament. But yeah, it's awesome to see him playing well. He's got all the shots. He's a good putter. He's very unique. He's got the fun fan favorite scooper shot. So that's he pulled that out a couple times last week. So that was fun, even as a player competing against him. That was fun to watch. So yeah, he's great for the sport. He's got great skills, and I'm excited. Hopefully, I can play with him again and battle it out with him.
Awesome. Thank you, Ricky.
Cool. Thanks, Rick.
All right. Thanks, guys.
We are now here with one of the most anticipated returns to the touring field here, Simon Lizotte, making his tour restart this year. How are you feeling, man? Tell me all about it. What's going on?
Good. Just super excited to be back. You know, weather first. I don't know why the weather comes first thing in mind, which is kind of sad, but it always does. Great course. Awesome seeing all the friends again, other players. Kind of like overwhelmed. Like that, I've had that question like 20 times already and never know what to say. But just good. It's been a long, almost 7 or 8 months of trying to get back, and now I'm here.
What was the hardest part of the journey for you? Because you didn't stop being a person in the sport. You're still relevant with the YouTube series and growing your brand. So what was the hardest part of this whole thing for you?
There were 2 really hard moments. One was right after last year's tour, because last year my injury was already like a thing. I just didn't throw any forehands because my backhand was still fine, which ended up making everything worse, obviously. But then when I took a break after the Pro Tour Finals last season, I took like a 5-week break off of throwing. I just thought, after this break I can throw again, because break always helps, we know that. But I came back to the course and it was way worse. I couldn't even throw backhands anymore. I was just like, what is going on? I mean, that was now in November, so I wasn't too worried yet because I still had 3 months to go. So I wasn't like stressing too much about it, but I was just like confused what was going on. Started talking with Seth. We tried to find different solutions and approaches to find out what injury I have. I went from doctor to doctor, did all the x-rays. Actually, on my birthday in November, I ended up going to the hospital to do an MRI. So that was a fun little birthday present. And they found out that nothing was wrong with my elbow. Like, they couldn't see anything wrong with it, and barely any inflammation. So I was just like, what is it? Like, why does it hurt? So that's always like a crappy moment when you have something that hurts and you don't know why or what it is. Rehab started, went like 20 weeks or something, and then I tried to throw hard again into a net with a radar gun, and me and my therapist noticed that I wasn't ready. It wasn't even close to there yet. Like, this is like 12 weeks ago now, and I was just like, after 2 months of rehab, and I didn't feel any better. I was like, I feel like almost worse now. I was like, what's going on? I've been going to the gym, going to the doctor, massages, everything, and I just didn't understand what was wrong. So then we wrapped it all back to the start and started a new program, different approach, different. We now call it a triceps tendinopathy. What did they call it before that? I don't remember. But triceps tendinopathy basically just, I don't even know what it means, but it's just an overuse injury. And we started strengthening my triceps a lot to take like the pressure and the force off of my joint and my tendons. And then I finally started feeling improvements. And week by week I was throwing a bit harder and better. And now I'm still not throwing 100%, but I'm close enough that my distance is still like around 500 feet, which is good enough, I think.
Yeah, not too bad, I guess.
That was a really long answer, sorry.
Well, beyond the physical recovery, right, it's a lot of mental rehab too. Where's your confidence level coming out? I mean, obviously you're somewhat confident because you're playing in this tournament, but where are you in terms of kind of trusting yourself to go out in this format and not overdo it?
I have been playing quite a lot actually in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know if you watch my vlog, you might, but I was visiting Paul. That's now, when is that, 3 weeks ago-ish? We played his big new course. They had a big opening, and he wanted me to come play and promote his course, and I ended up beating Paul on his design course. And then 2 weeks later, I went to Steve Brinster's home course in New York, and I beat Steve on his home course. So I was like, man, maybe throwing like more gentle, controlled actually could potentially help my game. And the practice rounds I've played at Maple and other places near home were all good. Like, I'm hitting my gaps, I'm hitting my lines. You know, putting is still hit or miss, kind of. I don't have the biggest confidence yet around the basket. But once the tournament mode sets back in, that's always been like my thing. Like, I'm always way better in tournaments than I am in practice. So I'm just relying on that. You know, I've been doing it my whole life, so it's kind of like, I don't feel like I need to mentally prepare that much because I just have always been doing it.
Let's talk about the course, especially in light of you maybe changing up your style a little bit from what fans are used to. How are you going to attack this course? It is over 11,000 feet. There's a lot of big shots out there. What's your plan?
Yeah, so I really am impressed with this course. I've heard the designer's name a bunch of times, but I forget it right now.
Leonard Muise.
Leonard Muise. Yeah. he did a really good job. I mean, this property obviously is awesome, and it's hard to make something bad, but I've seen it so many times that people just get it wrong. And this was one of the courses where I noticed the most, like, that he got it right. Like, every hole is just fun, makes sense, fun and challenging and fair, like the three important parts, and he got them all right. So I'm really excited for that. A lot of rollers, so we're going to see most rollers I think we've ever seen in the tournament. So front nine is going to be, I think, 4 or 5 of the holes are roller holes. So I'm just taking it easy. Like, I'm really, I don't know how to explain it, but in disc golf and I think other sports and golf too, like, more effort doesn't really equal more distance or better results. So dialing it down to like 80-90% effort can still give me like the same results. So I'm attacking it like usual, just with a bit less effort, I'd say.
All right, last question kind of along those lines. You are going to be on the feature card on the Disc Golf Network live stream tomorrow. So how many Simon lines are you limiting yourself to for tomorrow's round?
I am pretty sure there's going to be 0 Simon lines, and that's not my choice. It's kind of like I can't. Like, I physically can't chuck one over the trees right now because it would hurt. Like, I'm supposed to be throwing. I'm not here like risking anything like that, and I'm not going to be tempted by anything as well. I've done just like 4 months of rehab, and I don't want to do it again anytime soon. So I'll take it seriously, of course, and I don't think this course doesn't even really line up for too many Simon lines. There's a handful out there, but I'm taking my DD3s straight down the middle. That's my new game.
Simon, Chris with Gatekeeper, good to see you. Couple questions. First off, having a very successful YouTube and personality, and then being known as the fan favorite with the shots and everything, how are you balancing like your work-life balance now, coming back into competitive play, still filming your vlog, anything new, or what's that process like for you?
Just try to keep it fun. I mean, we're still in a pandemic technically, so things are very limited as well when it comes to travel and freedom of everything we would like to do. So the big plans for like making the vlog like a priority and stuff like that is still maybe hopefully next year, but who knows. And no, I want to, from here on out, I want to play every Pro Tour for the rest of the season, every major for the rest of the season. My therapist doesn't want me to play back-to-back weekends, so that might be an issue for a couple of tournaments, but I'm not sure exactly. I don't have the schedule in my head right now. But yeah, maybe play a tournament, and then next week throw out a video or two, and then play a tournament the next week, stuff like that. Because I really enjoy the YouTube thing, and it helps my life financially a lot.
Awesome. I know doing therapy, working with Seth with Disc Golf Strong a little bit more, is there any like stretches that you could recommend to the people home that they could help with saving their elbow or anything, or at least stretching their elbow? Or is that a question for Seth?
Probably a question for Seth. What I recommend is playing a bit of catch before your round. I have here my rehab disc. This is a pretty light fastback, and I've just been with my therapist before. Every time I would go throw into the net, we would play catch for like 15-20 minutes just to get everything loose and going. And other than that, it's important to strengthen the muscles around your joints, because that's all I know. I don't know what's going on.
Awesome, thanks. 2 more questions. I know you were over at the Steel Club over in Pennsylvania working on the design with that, and
yeah,
as well as hanging out with Avery and doing a lot of design.
Yeah.
How's that going for you? Is that something you see doing a lot in the future, the course design?
Course designing is hard, especially in New England when you get just, oh yeah, we have a bunch of woods here, just make us a championship course, because disc golf is getting so big and popular that every new project seems like we want the new big thing, or we want the new best course in New Hampshire or in Massachusetts, or we want championship level. It's always championship level Pro Tour stuff, because they want their property to be seen and used properly, and I like it. I'm definitely not there yet that I would consider it that it's going to be like a side gig even at this point. But, you know, maybe down the road, 5-10 years from now, I could see myself redesigning places or doing new projects like that. It was really fun. The Steel Club for the Match Play Championships is going to be, we're still debating how we're going to do it, but it's going to be a really fun event.
Awesome. And last question, what hole are you most excited to attack out here this weekend?
Whoa. What am I most excited or most scared of? Oh, I don't know. Hole 1. That's where I'm going next.
All
I'm
right.
most excited right now for hole 1.
Sounds good, thanks.
I don't even remember all the other holes because they're all just long and hard.
All right, Mahmood, what you got for us?
I always wondered how he did that.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Simon. I really appreciate you.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, looking forward to watching you play tomorrow.
Thanks, bro. No questions? You're good?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, cool.
All right, thanks.
Covered it. They did a great job.
Cool. Well, thanks, Simon.
All set?
Thanks, Simon.
Hi to Germany.
First off,
You guys good in the control room there? Oh, sweet. Okay, yeah, just count me in when you're ready. Sorry, say again? Oh, okay. Go.
All right, now here with a legend, a member of the exclusive 5-time club and somebody the sport is always happy to see around, Juliana Korver. Welcome to Northern California, and I'd just love to hear your first thoughts on the OTB Open course and the venue so far.
It is gorgeous. It is, I mean, just visually, it is stunning, one of the prettiest courses I've ever seen. But also, it's really, really fun to play. I mean, yeah, it's a bomber course, it's long, but it has a lot of character. Every hole has something that you have to think about, throw under, throw around, throw over. It's a really good course.
How are you planning to attack this? I mean, you know, the game has evolved a lot. Obviously, you've been around a long time. You've seen different phases and iterations of the FPO game. What are you seeing now out of these competitors, and does that inform how you're going to attack a course like this?
Well, I mean, the thing that you always say is I play against the course, I don't play against the competitors. That wasn't always true, but you still said it. But now, you know, I feel so removed from all of this. Coming back it's just, I told somebody it feels like I walked through a portal and it's 20 years later and what the heck happened? So I'm just really trying to get my legs underneath me, and I just want to show people that I can still throw. You know, I mean, obviously I'd like to do well, but I'm not really focused on that. And I am really enjoying, so I played last weekend, I'm really enjoying getting to watch the current women playing from, you know, standing right next to them. The skill level in the FPO field is phenomenal.
Is that sort of the first thing that stands out to you? I mean, you know, we have a lot of fans who have not been around the sport that long, and there weren't that many eyes, you know, 5, 10, 20 years ago. Can you give those fans some perspective on the biggest things that you've seen change?
the biggest thing is that you don't play with the same person every single round, every single tournament, every single year. So with 20 to 40 women playing in these events, you know, they're shuffling every round. That's new for me, and that's great. It gives it more flavor, more character. You know, it's more interesting, and you're fighting to get up to that other card. And yeah, just the fact that we've got such big fields now, that's the most drastic difference that I see.
And last question for me, you've been doing a lot on the media side too. We've seen you in the commentary booth. We've seen you, you know, on podcasts, kind of doing those other hosting roles. What's the most fun thing for you these days? Is it still kind of lacing it up, getting out there and ripping shots, or is it getting to talk about it? What's for you?
No offense, but the most fun is going to La Jolla Shores and jamming with Dave Murphy. But so the commentary is, quite frankly, a little scary for me. I am not that comfortable behind a mic, but there's not another subject that I'm more comfortable talking about. So I have gotten to the point where if people think that I'm doing a good job, then I'm almost happy to be doing it. And you know, I might not have a lot of pizzazz or flavor, but I can speak to the technical aspects of the shots and the holes that are played.
Hi, Chris with Gatekeeper. Jamie basically asked the questions I was going to ask, so I feel like I'm in school and I'm like, oh, what do I say now? But to go off the commentary thing, do you see that being something you will continue to do in the future? Or are you
probably, so I'm not exactly seeking it out, but I was joking with Jonathan Poole after Women's Nationals last year, and I told him that if he asked me to do it again in 2021, that I might only say no once. No, I am getting a little bit more comfortable with it, and again, provided that I feel like I'm doing a good job, then I think I will continue to step in that role periodically.
Okay. Awesome. And you were saying, like, with the women's sport growing so much and their field growing, are there any organizations or anything that you're behind specifically that you would like to kind of shout out at this moment that would help with that growth?
Gosh, I should be. You know, I'm not intimately involved with any of them, but, you know, Respect Your Game and Throw Pink, I know that they're both working very hard, and I guess I should raise my hand now and say if there's something that I can do for these particular organizations or others that I'm not aware of, maybe give me a shout out.
Awesome. Last question, what hole are you most excited to attack this weekend?
I don't remember hole numbers very well. I don't have a specific hole that I'm excited about. I actually like that many of the holes, one of the feature characteristics is a low ceiling tunnel shot, which used to be something that I was extremely good at. Not quite as good as I used to be, but I'm hoping that I can play some of those low tunnel shots like I used to, and that would be very fun for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm excited to see you out there this weekend.
All right, and we'll throw it to Mahmood for any other questions.
Hi, this is Mahmood out in Milwaukee. So, you said this is a bomber course, but you're kind of a bomber. You're the world distance record holder for women over the Masters world distance record holder at 443 feet, which I found out in my research this week. Do you feel like this course sets up for you as a long thrower?
I am not a long thrower when compared to today's FPO. I used to feel like I had an advantage off the tee over anybody. Last week at Goat Hill, I felt like I was the shortest off the tee almost every time. But, you know, this game is not about who can throw farthest. This game is who can play golf. And at least if I can stay out of my head, I can still play golf. So I don't think that I certainly don't have any advantage over the field for any distance, but I don't think I'm significantly disadvantaged either.
Awesome. Really looking forward to watching you play this weekend. 443 feet is that's not a joke. So I'm really excited to watch you out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back. We are here with the one and only Nate Sexton, who is in the field this week. Welcome back to the tour. Give kind of your initial thoughts on returning to competitive play here and the course that you see in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, I played Dynamic Disc Open, so that was kind of pretty recent and didn't go well by any stretch, but it was fun to be back. And yeah, I'm excited to be here as well. You know, this is a nice course. It feels like summer. It's so hot. So that's fun. And we get a lot of chances to throw the disc a long way out here.
Well, I know people at home are going to be used to you breaking down the holes like we're doing a flyover right now, but break down, maybe one or two of your favorite holes that you've seen out here. What do you think about it, and what's going to be the play?
Yeah, man. I mean, there's some amazing ones. I like both of the par fives are fun. The really long one, the 1,200-foot one, is a lot of fun strategy decisions because it's like, can you get over that water in two? I probably can't unless I get like a really fantastic roller or something if I have good wind. But I think that's going to be an interesting hole to watch just to see who's willing to push that second shot and go over the water and set up kind of an easier birdie and who might kind of try to play around the water. If it's windy, I think almost everyone goes around, but in calm weather, it could be pretty exciting.
So you said DDO, in your words, didn't go too well, but was that above or below expectations? Obviously, doing the media and playing,
sure,
are two different things.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I would say below. It's hard. It's like I haven't been practicing very much, so expectations are a tricky thing because I try to not have too much of them because it's like I know I'm a little bit rusty after basically over a year without like consistent practicing really or anything because I've just been doing the dad thing. But I would say below. I still believe in my game and would have liked to perform a little bit better, but I still cashed, so whatever.
Yeah, translating that to this weekend, what are your expectations for here now that you've kind of seen this course and how it plays? I mean, a lot of rollers out there, so not necessarily just distance, right?
Yeah, sure. I don't expect to win. Let me tell you. Let me get that out of the way real quick. I'm going to go out there and play my best. I want to play intentionally. I felt like at DDO I kind of like lost sight of that and was like excited to be back and just kind of like went for everything and just like let the thinking man's game kind of get away from me a little bit. So I want to get back to that a little bit. Obviously, I think you got to be really aggressive to be in the hunt. So picking my spots, but yeah, I don't know. Expectations are tough. I hope to play well. I hope to hold my head high on the way out, and I could get a lot of different places and be able to do that. It just depends on how I feel about how I'm executing my plan.
Nate, Chris with Gatekeeper. Good to see you. Couple questions. First off, having done commentary and competing for such a long time, coming back to that and putting that competitive and commentary back into your life, being a father and having the podcast, how are you balancing your work life?
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff, but it's fun. The podcast has gotten trickier now that I'm traveling. Like it's been a little more scrambly to like figure out the guests and do my research and get it all done, but that was an easier project in the off season, but we're still working hard trying to make sure we can keep those shows coming because I'm having a good time with it. We just had Avery Jenkins on the show last night and had a fun conversation. And then, yeah, commentary and play, those are like almost like I don't even remember the time before that I did both of those things. I don't even remember what it was like to be only a player. Like, it's been a long time that I've been tied up in both of those worlds when I'm at a tournament. So that's really natural feeling as far as balancing those things. Yeah, and then same with the father thing. Like, you know, she's almost 4 now, so I'm not any kind of new dad. That's been part of it for a while now too. So it all works out just fine. It's it's all thanks to my grandparents, really, or not her grandparents, my parents and my wife's parents, coming up and supporting in this time, because, you know, as I've said on every interview ever, my wife works a lot, and it's like without them there being willing to drive up and be at our house, I really can't travel. So every time I'm anywhere, it's because they're taking time to come up to our house and help us out.
With the West Coast swing here and Worlds ending, kind of this West Coast swing, and you're saying kind of knocking the rust off, do you see these next couple tour events as kind of pre-game for Worlds, and you kind of have your eye on Worlds, or are you just out here to have fun?
But I can say yes to both of those things, I guess. I'm out here to have fun. Yeah, sure. I mean, Worlds is obviously the most important tournament. I feel like I am just trying to play well. I don't know. I'm not like feeling like, it's not like I come to this tournament like it's just a warm-up. Don't worry. I'm still trying to compete and do my best, but just looking forward to kind of feeling like I'm in game shape. I'm like, you know, I'm in that phase right now where like my fingers hurt from like playing 2 days in a row, and it's like when you're on tour, you don't have that kind of stuff. Like, your fingers aren't sore because you're ready for that. You've been throwing every day for months. For me, it's like come out here and all of a sudden play a course 3 times longer than the 9-holer by my house, and it's like you're ripping shots, throwing all different discs than what I throw in the woods in Washington near home. It's like this is a totally different setup, and just like throwing that hard that many times, that's what I'm looking forward to, is kind of getting my fitness to that place where I don't have to like be sore every night.
Awesome. Last question here. Being a big driver course, what interval mode are you kind of going to lean on, you think, the most?
Oh, I mean, for sure. I'll give you a couple. Destroyer for the backhands, X-Cal for the forehands, and Sidewinders and Thunderbirds for the rollers.
Very cool. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to throw it over to Mahmood for any questions.
Hey, Mahmood out in Milwaukee. So, the way you're talking, it sounds like you don't expect to be winning the next few weeks. But it wasn't that long ago that you're a major champion. Like, do you still feel like you have one more big win left in your career? Like, what are you looking forward to as
Yeah.
I just want to.
Yeah, man. I hope I have more than one. I would say I didn't expect to win that major either. I didn't expect to. I don't think I've ever. I don't like thinking of myself as a favorite. I like to think of myself as a great player who can get in the hunt and play well at the end, and maybe I win. But I'm not the type of guy. That's not my personality, to come in and be like, I'm the guy to beat, and I'm going to win this, and I expect to win. I don't think I've ever expected to win anything but maybe a B tier, maybe a couple A tiers. I've never been on the Elite Series or at a major and just rolling up thinking this is mine. Nobody can touch me. I just try to play the best I can, and sometimes I get a win. So yeah, I definitely hope I have a couple more. That'd be great.
Awesome. Thank you, Nate. Good luck this weekend, dude.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Nate.
Thank you. Sweet.
And now we're here with Ohn Scoggins, one of, I would say, the most pleasant surprises on tour, and I mean that in we didn't maybe expect to see you as much, but all of a sudden here you are. You're playing extremely well. You're in a battle last weekend, and now the OTB Open. Off the top, first impressions of this course. I hear it's very difficult and long for the women.
Yeah, it is, especially me. Everybody know it. I throw very, what do you call? I'm not throw far, so for me it's like big problem for me. But hey, when you decide to be a professional, so you cannot be scared of long course or short course or technical. So I just gonna go through it, and it is long course and then low ceiling, but the OB is not that much. So I think all the lady is not worried about much about OB, but the low shot, yeah, maybe, yeah.
How are you going to make up for that distance out here? I mean, obviously you're a prolific putter when you get to the green. Is that the main thing you're going to look to capitalize on?
Yeah, I try to, maybe I need to practice the jump putt more, I guess, because I know a lot of girls that just probably gonna just like park it or inside the circle. For me, probably like circle 2. So I just try to make a jump putt the most I can this weekend, or just try to go to, what do you call, hit the fairway, and just whatever hole I can birdie, I just gotta try birdie. If not, just try to take par and walk away. So.
Now, you say regularly, and I've heard you in other interviews talk about how you don't have the distance of other players,
yeah.
But the challenge at Goat Hill, that's not a short course down there, and you were in a battle down to the end with Lisa Fajkus, who is not known as a long thrower. So, you know, what are both you and she doing right to compete on a long course like that?
I think we make a lot of putts compared with a lot of people. I think, especially in the wind, I think me and her, we kind of like almost spin putt. So it worked very well with the putting. And then we not OB much. I think OB over there is more tight than OB in this course. Over there, it's just like if you not make it, what do you call, hit the fairway, you can skip OB here and there, because the OB is it's just like, what do you call, tighter. But here it's not much OB. You don't need to worry too much. It's just like a couple hole. But I know a lot of ladies, it's just they're not gonna be worried much about OB here. But at Goat Hill it's different, because the OB is just so tight, and then the windy. So me and Lisa, we just make more putt, I guess, and then all the drive. I think all the girls just like do so well with the drive. Probably just the putt we get the better putt out there. So. Yeah.
Well, I know you're a very competitive person. You started off this season winning the Virtual Putting Invitational, and I know that you want to get a tour win. So, you know, what is it in your mind? What about your game needs to just do a little bit more to get you over that last hill and lift the trophy on Sunday?
The distance. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind it's the distance. So I just hope in the future, if my driving getting further, and even 40, 50 feet further, I know I can reach my goal closer to win some big tournament. But somehow right now, I just have so much problem with my distance, and especially this course. Like a lot of girls that throw like 60, 100 feet further than me. My just like I have to throw 2 drives to match them, the drive. So, but you know what? I'm here for learning. I'm willing to learn everything, and then hopefully in the future I can gain more distance, and then hopefully reach my goal and win some big tournament in the future. Yeah.
Hi, Chris
Hi.
with Gatekeeper. I have a couple questions.
Hi.
First, most, if you had to play this course other than your putters with just one mold, what would be the mold that you rely on the most on this course?
For the disc?
Yeah.
You know, I know this course have windy, so I just gonna go with Destroy, because I can do Anheuser or Heiser. It's gonna fight with the wind. So I have my tour series Leopard 3, but my Leopard 3 is very stable. So when is the wind coming, it's kind of like to flip. But for winding in this course, windy. So I'm just gonna go with Destroy.
Very cool. Is there a specific hole you're excited to attack this weekend that you had your eyes on? Because there's a lot of pretty holes out there.
I like, I don't remember though. maybe hole 3 or hole 4, the one you have to cross the water.
3.
You have to cross the water and then you have to throw sidearm. I like that hole.
Yeah.
I mean, because you have to throw both. If you're gonna throw backhand and then another backhand, you have to be like perfect hyzer. For me, I have both, so I can just throw backhand straight and then sidearm. I'm looking for maybe one of the day I can birdie in that hole, so I really like that hole. So.
Yeah, that's a great
Actually,
one.
I like a lot of holes, but
Yeah.
somehow I just remember that hole.
That's awesome. Last question here. If you weren't out here, professional disc golfer, what would you be doing?
Me?
Yeah.
You know, I probably, who knows, maybe sell this.
There you go.
I'll probably sell this if I'm not play disc golf. I'll probably just like still touring and I'll just sell it on the way because I like traveling. I like to see a lot of states and, you know, just feel the nature. I love camping. I love to be outside more than inside the house. And why not? You know, even I'm not play disc golf, I can sell this. I can make money for living, and see a lot of people, see a lot of a lot of states. So,
awesome.
Or who knows, something else. I'm massage therapy before, but I quit my job right now because it's not good for COVID. I don't have client coming, and I'm done with that. So I'm looking for a professional disc golf or just sell this
Yeah,
in the
just
road.
traveling. I mean, that's why I'm out here too. So.
Yes.
Very cool.
We have a same goal. So.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Sorry if I talk something. It's like you guys.
Now here with James Proctor, formerly of Northern California, now living up in the Washington area. First of all, welcome back to the NorCal-ish region.
Thank
how
you.
you feeling, man?
I feel good. It feels good to be back in California, back on the home turf a little bit. Brand new layout here, so still getting to know it a little bit. But yeah, it's good to be back.
Well, I know you're going to have experience, playing in this region. Obviously, as many other Northern California golfers are going to know, usually flat and super windy out in this part of the state. How much of that are you seeing in terms of what's typical, and how much are you seeing in this layout that kind of makes it play a little differently than some other tournaments you may have played here?
I mean, typical NorCal golf is short par threes through the woods, so this course is huge. Not a lot of par fours, and out here we got 800-900 foot par fours where destroyer second shots aren't something I'm not used to, so it's exciting. I know a lot of the courses out on tour now are bigger and the golf courses are becoming more typical, but it's still a new part of the game for me, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and obviously you have a following in this region that'll be rooting for you big. For anybody that maybe is living in other parts of the country that hasn't gotten to see you play or doesn't know your game, what do you bring to the table? What's your biggest advantage? How are you going to capitalize? I mean, you're playing with some pretty big names here this weekend.
Yeah, I'd like to think that I just do all the little things well. I've been working a lot on my forehand the last couple of years, just trying not to have any weaknesses. I try to be a consistent putter. A lot of 60, 50, 70 footers out here, those circle two putts that I'm going to be focusing on a lot this weekend. But just, not crazy, absurd power, sidearm power, any of that. Just kind of do everything well.
What is something you're looking forward to the most as part of this competing weekend? I know you don't get to tour the entire year like some of these other players, so this experience, what are you kind of looking for? What are your expectations?
I'm just happy to be out here. Last year everything on the West Coast was shut down, so it's been 2 years since I've been on the pro tour, seeing a lot of the top guys. So it's just fun to be out here. The environment's just totally different, and I got a couple more lined up for the rest of the year. So this will be a good warm up for me. Hopefully put out a strong finish and then keep that momentum going.
All right, pass it over.
Chris with Gatekeeper. I just have a couple questions. Is there any specific shots you're looking forward to? There's a lot of people saying they're throwing a lot of rollers out here. Is that something in your game? Is that something you're looking forward to throwing? And if not, what shot are you looking to throw?
Yeah, I mean, it's in my game. I am throwing a couple out here. I'm not necessarily looking forward to throwing them. I like throwing air shots and shaping shots in different ways, but it is a great tool. And a lot of these longer par 3s and par 4s with the low ceilings, the roller gets down the fairway pretty well. So, I'm trying to run through the holes in my head real quick. I love that 1,200-foot par 5 over the water. That's a lot of fun. There's a lot of good shots out here, a lot of birdies that feel good. It's not like you miss a hole and you feel like you lost a stroke. You feel like you earned something when you get a birdie. So I'm looking forward to the whole course.
Awesome. Yeah, you kind of answered my next one. I was going to say, what hole are you looking forward to? It sounds like it's hole 9, that big par 5.
Hole 9, and then any hole that I can get a birdie on, I'm going to be happy about it.
Do you think there's any eagle opportunities out here for you or for anyone else?
I got kind of close on, I believe it's 4 or 5, whatever that par 5 is, the long, straight, low one. I think if you can push that top ceiling and get some air time, maybe a second shot roller, you can get close to it. But other than that, I don't see anyone reaching any par 4s or that other hole 9 par 5.
Unless we see like a 200-foot throw in.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, yeah.
That's all I got. Thank you very much.
Of course.
I'll give you one more question. A lot of players have been talking about kind of the low ceilings, and this ties into the roller question a little bit there, but is that something that you're comfortable doing and kind of executing on this course, or is it going to be a lot about angle control? If you could kind of break this down into 1 or 2 points where you can come off and say, that was a successful round, I battled this layout well, what are you looking to capitalize on?
Yeah, a lot of flat destroyers off the tee, getting extra glide, getting way up the fairway, and then hopefully making it easy on myself. For me, I'm just going to try to play it pretty smart and safe, at least the first 2 rounds. Put together some solid rounds, avoid the OBs, of course, and just always be looking at birdie. I don't want to be scrambling. Hitting early trees here will be really tough, lead to a lot of bogeys. So just getting off the tee pad clean, always up the fairway, and then looking at birdies every chance I get.
And last question, do you have any expectations in your mind? You're starting out on the Jomez Pro card, so we're going to get some eyeballs on you and your round. You said you're going to play conservative. How does that translate into expectations for a finish?
I'd love to be on the Jomez card for the last round as well, so that's kind of my goal. I don't have too high of expectations. A top 10 finish would be great. Just something where I can play 3 consistent rounds. That's all I'm really looking forward to. No mediocre or bad rounds, just 3 solid rounds, and then see where I end up.
All right. Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
This weekend.
Now here with Calvin Heimburg, having an incredible season so far. We've seen you on a couple big lead cards with some of the best in the world, and now we're out here at the OTB Open. Is it safe to predict that we could see some more things like that happen? This is a really long and difficult course.
Hopefully. Like every week, you still got to throw good tee shots and make your putts to get there. But, yeah, I think this course sets up pretty good for people that can throw far, but not only throw far, but throw accurately.
Yeah, break down a couple of those tee shots and putts from your practice rounds. What's your initial read on this brand new venue on the Pro Tour?
It's out on a golf course, which typically means you have a lot of airspace, but they use the sides of the fairways and all the trees really well. So there's actually a lot of low ceiling shots, which I'm pretty comfortable with. I know not everyone necessarily is, so I think we'll actually probably see a bunch of rollers this week, but I'll mostly be sticking to just low air shots.
Is there a particular stretch of the course that you think, hey, this is where you really have to execute? Is it about starting fast and ending fast, like I've heard you say before, or can you kind of wait on it?
This course it's going to be interesting. I'm not actually sure how it's going to score in the tournament. I played it in a little bit of wind, but I heard it can get really windy out here, so I think I've played in a lot of ideal days. But there's a lot of tough par 3s, so it's not, and then there are some par 4s that are a little bit easier, and then, I don't know, there's a lot of difficult holes, so I don't think it's going to be as much of a birdie fest, and I think it'll be hard to shred the course every day, so I think you might see some flip-flopping going on throughout the week.
As I mentioned off the top, big power card the final day at the Dynamic Disc Open, and then you didn't play last weekend, correct?
I did not play last weekend.
So you took the weekend off. Does that help? Does that hurt? What's your mentality kind of going into a course like this, having just kind of been in mid-season form already in that battle?
I think taking the week off helps. Getting out to Goat Hill, kind of had my fingers split open. Wasn't going to be good for me to be out there and just ripping on a split finger. And it was halfway across the country, and so you would have had to book it. But, I think the week off helped me, and I feel pretty good going into this. I've gotten to see the course a handful of times, and looking forward to seeing how I can score it.
Fingers okay? Is it going to hold you back at all this weekend?
I don't think it'll hold me back. It's fine. It was my pointer finger. It's healed up, so hopefully as long as it stays healed, I should be good.
Chris with Gatekeeper, a couple questions here. Calvin,
First
off, you're no stranger to winning big events. You've won on ball golf courses over Vegas and tightly wooded courses at Hall of Fame. Do you find this course to kind of be in the middle? It's a fresh course for a lot of people. So what part of your game do you think you need to shine the most? Distance, touch?
I think distance still is a big thing out here, but it's not what you think of distance on a normal golf course. You have to keep the disc pretty low in a lot of situations, and you can't just be missing everywhere, left or right. So it's controlled distance is where I think whoever's throwing good controlled distance drivers is going to have a good chance at winning this week.
Very cool. Is there any specific molds or anything that you're leaning on the most out here that you've noticed?
I definitely throw the Destroyer quite a bit out here. I also get to throw my Eagle a handful of times, which is nice. That's one of my favorite discs. So those two, and then approaches are, I don't know, a little bit everywhere. It depends on where the tee shot lands. So, but I think Destroyer is probably the main disc you're going to be seeing a lot of.
Awesome. Final question. What hole are you most excited to attack out here? Because there's a lot of good ones.
There's a few of them that are all kind of set up the same, but I'm excited to throw these long, low ceiling tunnel shot par 3s. So I guess specifically, that's 5 and 8, and then you can even throw that same kind of shot on hole 2 if you choose. But those are probably the ones I'm most excited to attack, hoping to maybe get some more birdies on those compared to the field, but they're still tough shots, so it could be possible I don't birdie any of them.
Awesome. One more, actually, I wanted to ask. Do you think there's any holes out here that we're going to see any eagles on? You with elite distance might be able to reach.
I would say it's possible you'll see an eagle on hole 4, but other than that, you could, 4, then there's also, I think it's 7. 7's like a shorter par 4 that you could see a roller get up there, but I'm definitely not attacking that one for eagle, and unless I throw something crazy off the tee on 4, I'm not really attacking it for eagle either. one of those holes where just I think getting your birdie and leaving, you're going to be fine.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Is he good? One more for you before you go, Calvin. This time last year, we were kind of just coming out of the pandemic, and obviously that meant a more thinned out schedule for the rest of the year. We're still missing a couple tournaments this year, but it's much more robust with the national tour, with having Worlds, things like that. Are you feeling any different at this point in the year, not quite to the halfway mark? And do you think that this big touring schedule, are you going to be able to go the distance, and how does that affect somebody on tour full time?
I feel good. Got kind of boring last year when I was just sitting around at home. I mean, obviously I played some, but it's just kind of run out of things to do. But so I feel good. I don't think the more tournaments is going to affect me. I'm just happy to be out here playing.
And last question: expectations for this weekend? Just going out and having fun and trying to get into the mix again, or do you expect to try to take hardware home?
I mean, that's what we're trying to do every week. So I mean, I wouldn't say I have expectations of doing that, but that's obviously the goal. I mean, anyone that's out here competing is trying to win. If you're not out here trying to win, I'm not really sure what you're trying to do. But yeah, out here trying to win. Hopefully that happens, but likely it won't. Just hopefully put together a solid game plan where we keep it in the fairway and make our putts.
All right, best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sweet. Thanks, Calvin.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah.
Back here with Jeff Springs, CEO and Tour Director of the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Brand new venue, new name, some familiar crew, but how's the setup going for the OTB Open this weekend?
Well, we're done set up, actually, and it went fantastic. Really impressed with the venue, with the course design, and I think we're in for a great treat this weekend with really high-level competition, the return of Simon, deep field. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's obviously hard to replace a course like Glen Eagles, a very unique and special course on the tour. But just kind of talk about the lift. I mean, the Pro Tour over the last 2 seasons has had to make a lot of venue changes, so you got to be pretty used to it by now.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's kind of just been integrated into the fabric of what we do now, which is, be flexible, agile, able to kind of marshal resources, vet places quickly, do a lot of behind-the-scenes work, all mostly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we're looking forward to maybe turning a lot of that energy into growth and ideas for the future instead of just managing the present and the challenges of the pandemic. So this has kind of felt like normal, and maybe we'll get back to the old normal soon. But it's been pretty smooth. Obviously, we are getting used to that process. So
you've seen a lot of courses, a lot of venues in your time, even before on the Pro Tour. What's something that really stands out to you from your perspective about this particular course, this particular place?
I think the biggest thing that stands out is the use of the golf course venue effectively for a high-level disc golf course competition track. We hear a lot from fans and commenters and critics out there that golf courses aren't necessarily exciting to them, and that they have a problem when they see a new golf course, popping up on tour. And I understand that. I sympathize with that. I think that there's a lot of good feedback that we can take and learn from there. But I also believe that as we scale the tour and look for new venues, a lot of the infrastructure and amenities that come along, there's a lot of synergy with golf courses. On top of that, I believe that with a good design and good terrain, you can have great tracks on golf courses. If you look at Milo McIver, that is an old golf course. If you look at the Preserve, which was very popular and a lot of people thought that was a great addition, old golf course. So like if you think about it, I think there's a lot of potential there. It's just about the actual design that you put down on it. Leonard did an awesome job here. So that's like the big takeaway for me in terms of the venue and the course setup is, when done well, I think that it's going to be appreciated by the fans, by the spectators, and the players.
And last question from me. You mentioned the COVID pandemic and how a lot of decisions are still being affected by that. Well, we are starting to see the world kind of open up a little bit, cautiously, but still opening up. We're starting to see some fans come back. I'm just wondering, from your perspective, how exciting is that to see the fans and spectators back on the course and hopefully complying with all the policies, but just here to cheer on their favorite players?
It's incredibly exciting. I think this is what we have been waiting for the last year and a half. A couple hours ago, I saw that the CDC made another announcement that, regarding masks and vaccinated people, that they don't even have to wear them indoors. It's just a side note that, hey, things are continuing to progress, at least in the U.S. And that said, it's a new age. We're coming out of the pandemic with an entirely new perspective on what being a disc golf fan is. They're not just amateur players of the event anymore. There's huge fans of our personalities, our players, the top pros. And at DDO, there's I think 200-foot long line for signatures for Paul McBeth. He stood there for 45 minutes signing. So we've taken a lot of time to think about and scale up our resources and planning for crowd control. And I think as we get more and more experience and reps doing that, you're going to see an incredible spectator experience, not just watching the best pros in the world, but enjoying the amenities on site, food, drink, vending, and it's going to become, a really high-level sporting spectating experience.
Hey, Jeff. Chris with Gatekeeper Media. A couple questions.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, first and foremost, 2019, you took over at the end of the season. 2020 was supposed to be your first season. Obviously, the pandemic. Going to that normalness that we're seeing, this kind of being your first full year tour director on tour, how do you balance your work life, being away from home and being away from Vermont?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the challenge that we took up in 2019, is pretty clear that it's going to be an all-in experience. When our company was formed and we recapitalized the tour, it was like, okay, hey, this is a startup. We're obviously, we've got a great blueprint and we've got some ideas on like how to build the company, but every person we've hired since then, we've kind of broadcast, hey, this is a startup. We're going to be grinding. It's going to be hard. So in terms of work-life balance, it's not necessarily always there, to be honest. So maybe it could be an imbalance, but we're really now kind of turning our attention to sustainability for our staff and our employees. That includes me, So I think hiring more people, seconds for tasks and responsibilities, looking how we can like leapfrog events. That's part of our conversations now behind the scenes, and figuring out like those parts and pieces that is gonna allow people to take vacation, take days off, do the normal stuff. And I think we're starting to ease back into hopefully a better rhythm after like a wild year and a half.
Very cool. Being such a top guy, having so many people that you have to talk to and so many meetings and so many people that you have to delegate to, what's the biggest learning experience you've kind of had being on tour this season, I would say? Because this season we've seen a significant jump in the amount of team members, the quality of the production, that sort of thing. What's been the most you learned? Yeah,
it's probably similar to anyone in a position of like responsibility for a growing company, but it's just trusting your team. That's not just a lesson you learn once, though. You got to keep learning it. You got to keep letting go of things. A lot of things that I used to do personally, and maybe I like doing them, or I do them a certain way, I have to just, provide some, appropriate training and set some good expectations, but then let it go. And if I don't do that, it's hard to keep up. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of communication that's coming my way, and so the development of our team, the trust with the folks that we're bringing on board. The other thing I would say is that it's hard to measure how much you should scale up, but like at the start of the season, we probably should have hired a few more people. Luckily, we had some good candidates, and we were able to feather out like one hiring process. So we were able to bring some people on mid-season without starting with a blank slate. But that's just a taste of many learning experiences.
Yeah, for sure. Two more. What kind of the opposite? What are you most excited about? I mean, we had the ESPN deal that happened last year. That was very big. I actually saw it rerun a couple times on television, so that's a very good sign for our sport. So just in a big picture, kind of what are you excited about?
Yeah, I'm excited for that, the growth in national media. We are working on some major broadcast deals that we hope can come to fruition this year. But I think personally, I'm excited for venue development. I know that we have a lot of great venues on tour that are going to be able to scale up and grow with us, but we're also looking for new venues, and what does that look like? Is it going to be golf courses, country clubs, mountain resorts like the course in operation that I grew at Smugglers, or just private land, with entrepreneurs that are going to take a risk and invest some money. And I think that really excites me. Obviously, building the Smugglers Notch Disc Golf Center was one of the great joys of my life and super rewarding. And I'm looking forward to kind of taking a different role, like maybe a higher level look at that, but helping new venues come online and develop for the next phase in our sport, because it ties into the national media thing. If we're going to kind of in the professionalism and the growth of the game and what we need for players and purse growth, we need to provide amenities for the touring pros. We need to scale up what we can deliver on site and have room for spectators. And unfortunately there's just a lot of venues that can't do that or that don't exist yet. So.
Yeah, a good venue is actually the Steel Club for the match play. That's local to us, so I know that's a really great venue.
Yeah, and we're excited to add great venues like that. So.
Last question, a little more fun. If you're out there ripping the disc, which hole are you most excited to attack out there?
Oh, this is easy. I've been talking about this all week, actually. I love hole 14. It has just stood out to me in my mind. Hole 14, big water carry for 2 different tee pads, MPO, FPO. Big water carry into a landing zone that's super big and fair if you can get over the water. There's like this tree that hangs out that's like on the shore, but it looks like it's growing out of the water. And you like if you touch that tree, you're dead. But then you have 2 routes on the next shot. You can play over the peninsula, and stay under land, or if you land way out to the right, you can throw a spike hyzer or try to get under this tree. I think that the touring pros are going to probably make it look way easier than it is for me. But it's just so beautiful, and there's a lot of ways to play it, and it's got 2 water features in it, and huge, big oak trees. It's a beautiful green, and then a low ceiling. It's got everything, and it's just kind of a stunning design. I'd say it's one of my favorite holes I've ever played.
Awesome, I agree. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, just a couple more questions for you. Talking about venue development, of course, choosing venues is another big part of your job as of late, kind of relating back to COVID-19. We just saw the cancellation, or the postponement, I should say, of the PCS Sula Open and the addition of the Des Moines Challenge. I just wanted to give you a chance to speak publicly on the record about the factors behind that decision and what the Pro Tour is going to do going forward.
Yeah, we waited as long as we could, but our hands just ended up being tied. Norway's travel restrictions didn't loosen. They're still in phase 1, and people still cannot even travel into Norway. Other than Norwegian citizens. And so the team there, the conversations leading up to it was kind of like writing on the wall once we got into the final weeks. But for the past few months, we've been planning the contingency of Des Moines. We looked at a couple events. We wanted to go to an existing event. We know there's a lot of events happening in the U.S. and Canada right now. So we wanted to go to an existing event. We had him hold enough spots for the tour pass holders to come over. We'll also have a second wave of registration starting next week, so we'll see how many tiers that gets into. We're doing our standard DGBT reg process, but in terms of Des Moines, it's a disc golf heritage site, really. I would say Jay and Des Redding's from there. The course was designed by Juliana Korver, so a lot of world championships and a lot of history. Pickard Park is like the course, I think, from everything. I've heard, and the people I've talked to, and Ty Tannett from Wander Disc Golf's done a great job as a promoter, just as a single promoter. Wander Disc Golf is sponsoring some players. He's putting a lot into the game, and the Des Moines Metro Disc Golf Club is there to support him, be his team. And there's 4 new holes, so it's going kind of upgrading. It's getting tour proofed, and it's going to be over 9,500 feet, mix of open and woods. So that's a quick download, and I believe we're going to have a couple pros go and check the layout before it's fully finalized.
And kind of along those lines, Portland Open also getting a new venue. I mean, it sounds like a lot of work on the plate to not only change the venues on a short timeline, but also make sure that those courses are still up to the Pro Tour caliber.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Yeah, we got a lot of shifting and a lot of movement and a lot of what ifs. But we got a great team. This stuff that you guys are asking me about is a lot of what I'm grinding behind the scenes to figure out and communicate, because there's a lot of stakeholders, and I just thank PDGA for being flexible as well and working with us and understanding that we're trying to keep those high-level events on the board. We don't want to take anything off. So that's the main reason we replaced Des Moines. But for Portland, I couldn't be more thrilled actually with this. This has been our backup site. It's an amazing venue, home of the Nike Cross Country Championships, housed 5,000 plus spectators before. They have a team that has experience with events. We have Brian Cole, our operations manager, is the president of Stumptown. Tons of volunteers, tons of the disc golf community really excited for this one. And I've looked at Dustin Keegan's layout, and it's a killer. It's very similar in some ways to this, and different in other ways. Well, I can't wait for everyone to see it. But 11,700 feet for the men, over 10 for the women, and it's just going to be a special venue. Big, tall, towering pines, very northwestern-esque. So can't wait on that.
Last question, and just kind of keeping it on the operations side. It's a big concern. We've heard a lot of players talk about it in interviews lately about how do you incorporate the Europeans when the travel restrictions become tough both ways. I just want to ask, how much is this on your mind? Is it just, hey, we got to get the events we can get on the calendar, or hey, we really got to consider how this is going to affect the Europeans because this is such a global sport?
Yeah, I mean, if we could have gotten into Europe, we would have. It's certainly on my mind. We want the top level European players. If they want to play the Disc Golf Pro Tour, we want them there, and we want to, kind of stimulate the top level disc golf in Europe as much as we can too, and be a part of that. And it's definitely disappointing, although we are working hand in hand with the players. I'm messaging several players, top level players from Europe, and I expect Albert Tam to play in the Portland Open. We've been going back and forth on that, and he has a route and a way to do it. And there were a few players it looked like we could sign some paperwork for, to allow them to verify what they're coming over for a professional competition. But it's really kind of unclear because it's shifting in Europe and travel guidance is changing. But I do expect to see some touring players come over. I know that a lot of touring players have their eyes set on either Portland or right after that Worlds, and then hopefully they can stay with us. We do have some international sponsor exemptions held, so we're going to keep battling and keep communicating, but it's definitely on our mind.
All right, thanks for your time. Have fun this weekend.
Thank you.
Now here with a very special guest, our course designer out here at Swenson Park for the OTB Open, Mr. Leonard Muise. Leonard, welcome. And off the top, you spent a lot of time on this design. You're a very thoughtful designer. I'll toot your horn because I know you won't toot your own, but a lot of positive feedback in the early returns from the pros. How does that make you feel?
Oh, it's certainly gratifying, but my palms are even sweatier than before. Even leading into this, sort of felt the adrenaline rush that I used to feel as a competitor. It's like, all right, I'm excited, but I'm nervous, but I'm excited. And the positive feedback has been wonderful, but it just gets me even more revved up. It's like, I hope it's as good as it seems to be, right? So it's raising my expectations too. Because I design and I'm not 100% sure. I'm maybe 80%, 85% sure that I've hit it, right? And so we still need to see how it plays to find out for sure. But yeah, the guys have been so generous in their praise. I really appreciate it.
So take me back to when you found out when Sean Jack or Sean Mercy first approached you and said, hey, we're moving the venue from Glen Eagles, which is, by the way, another one of your legendary designs in the area. But you have a whole new track. You got to start from scratch. Kind of what went through your mind and how did you sculpt it into what we're going to see this weekend?
Well, I mean, first thought was, thanks guys for trusting me. I just don't take it for granted, right? It's a privilege to do this. Designing, I've done other stuff in the sport, and designing is by far my favorite thing, most gratifying thing. So just the honor of them thinking they would like to give me the opportunity again was a big thing. You know, I got after it right away. I mean, that weekend I was out here all day, both days, as soon as I heard about it. You know me, I'm very analytical, so I right away started checking myself in terms of how am I going to measure my success out here? What does a good layout look like? Distance, shot shaping, variety, all the little things that I'm looking for. And so, but then I do what designers do. I wandered the track, right? I just went around in circles a bunch of times just to see what I could find. And I've done a lot of golf course work. And this is a much better than average property, right? The terrain here is excellent, and grateful for that. So you can see the potential was there. And I'm glad I had enough time to grind on it over and over to get us where we are now. It was, I saw the potential and got a lot of help. You, one of the people, Conrad, was probably my biggest helper. John, a whole bunch of folks came out, and many of them found things I didn't see, or validated what I did see. But huge amount of contribution there as I kind of figured it out. And even a week ago, I was tweaking a couple of things.
So I have heard from the event staff.
Yeah, right.
You could probably do a whole master class on this, but in a couple of sentences, how do you design well on a golf course? I mean, you have to know that the public out there, the disc golf fans, they're wary of new disc golf on golf course tracks.
Sure.
So how do you keep it fresh? How do you do your thing?
Well, I mean, Glen Eagles made me conscious of something that's I think pretty difficult, and I'm fairly proud of, frankly, and that is how to find holes that are open and technical, right? Where the disc is in the air a lot, it maybe doesn't seem to be that constrained, but there's something about the elevation change or the wind angle or some nuance to the flight that you actually need to be very particular in your disc selection and the shape you choose. Even though there's all this space out there, right? It's like, oh, you got all this space to work with, and so those elements end up being what I'm looking for a lot. I have to use the wind a lot to make sure that so there's a lot of slightly off headwind shots here, for example, because I know those can be tricky to manage in places where it's not a low ceiling. In order to low ceilings force players to throw hard, but maybe it's not that far. But what places are more open, I'm challenging them to do nose up, maybe sort of into a headwind. How are you going to manage that? So that's the main thing I think on golf courses is how to make it open and technical. And wind is, I put a lot of effort into wind. I think of things like making the hardest landing area be on the upwind side of the basket, such that you want that tailwind putt. But when you're 280 out and it looks like a basic shot, actually you should be aiming 20 feet behind the basket, and that's the hardest spot to get within what appears to be a fairly open approach. So I work hard to find those things and apply them to the course.
Leonard, Chris with Gatekeeper. Nice to meet you. I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Having designed courses, do you notice anything specific or consistent in your type of design that kind of puts like your own little touch on these courses that you've kind of noticed?
People tell me.
Yeah.
And sometimes I hear, oh, this is the real Leonard design. And I'm like, I think that's nice. I'm not sure what you're saying there. But honestly, I tend to just get really technical about what I see and not conscious of any concepts. And I'm sure they're apparent to somebody who knows the craft of 6 or 7 of my peers. And they're like, oh, Hauk does this, and other designer does that, and there's probably some characteristics that are consistent in my courses. I do see a couple things that I tend to do. I do tend to like flick approach shots. I don't know why that happens a lot, but it does. Especially on par 4s, I tend to give that, and maybe that just speaks to me as a player because backhand dominant, but more likely to throw the sidearm for the approach. Other than that, I'm really not conscious of any particular thing. I'm striving for balance, so I look at every property uniquely, and so I'll take a look at what I've produced thus far, and then a lot of my hardest work is like trying to fill gaps. Oh, I don't have one of these. I have too many of those, just to get better balance and variety in the course. and not just from shot making, but from the ebb and flow of the mental game too. Yeah, this part of the course is looking pretty tough, but it's too early maybe to apply that pressure. So there's things like that I'm looking for. I mean, Jamie's one of the people who helped me learn all the dimensions of what it takes to have a good course. It's not just, a single hole in a vacuum. Here's a great shot, but it's the collection of shots and how they play as a group and how they play in a competitive context.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm a lefty backhand, so I like seeing this righty flick. So anything going left to right, I like.
Yeah, well, there's some shots for you out here for sure, especially the front.
If you were out here ripping this weekend, what hole would you want to attack the most? Which one stands out to you? I know they're all beautiful, but
wow. From a player's perspective, it's hard for me to separate from what I like as a designer. I mean, 14 is epic. It's spectacular, but frankly, it's almost had to be there, right? I was coming out here thinking, where can I find a diagonal water carry, even before I got to the property, because I know that's a big play, a par 4 with a diagonal water carry. I tend to get more excited about the holes with nuance. It's like, I find something crafty in a place that wasn't there. And I think maybe MPO 12 stands out for me. Danny Corbett gets credit for that. He and his crew I wasn't happy with what we had there. And he says, hey, did you see this? And I'm like, yeah. And then I looked again. I'm like, wait, if we do, that was exactly how it often works with me when I'm doing designs, that I think I've done my diligence, but then somebody makes me check myself. And just the second time through, I looked at it, I'm like, whoa. It's so that I like the finesse, being an old school player. I like having to, if guys throw backhands there, kind of a hyzer flip that holds the line into a headwind, into a gorgeous green. It's just like, and it's one of those open technical things. There's really not much in the way, but it's a beautifully executed shot if you can pull it off to just a gorgeous green. So I think maybe that one. And besides, I mean, that when I could play, that would be about the end of my range. 378 into the wind.
Yeah.
A lot of these other holes I've designed for guys who throw 100 feet farther than I ever could.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, thank you. And last question.
Yeah.
It's hard to put a number on it, but as the course designer, I'm just interested. What number do you think is going to be the hot round out here? Do you think someone could reach 12, 13, or do you think everyone's going to kind of keep it under, the 10s? Or do you think wind comes into?
Yeah, wind's a big factor. I mean, the same thing at Glen Eagles. Every day I'm refreshing the weather report 3 times a day to say, okay, we're going to have a bad day, we're going to have an easy day, because there's a point at which the wind gets too harsh and the course doesn't play well. It's not fun anymore. 16, 18 miles an hour gets past that. It's not great, and that's about an average afternoon out here, so it's right on the tipping point. Current forecast, boy, am I jinxing this, is for Saturday to be actually a little below average wind, and I think at that point the guys will know the course. I'm predicting 2 double-digit rounds on Saturday, and those may be the only double-digit rounds of the weekend. Frankly, watching the practice videos I've seen from the guys in the commentary, the course is playing a little harder than I thought. The holes that I thought were a little soft, still pretty challenging, are actually maybe a 1/10 or 2/10 harder on a scoring average than I thought they were. So I came in here thinking, because I really look at the top players, I don't look at just the whole field. I look at the 10-20 and up. I came in here thinking that this was going to go, that 10-20 and up would average 6 down. And then after seeing the practice rounds and watching how the trees filled in maybe more than I thought, now I'm thinking, 10-30 round is probably 4 under. So, to get to double digits, you're talking 10-70 round. It's no joke. And I think the wind will be favorable on Saturday. So,
awesome.
So I'm looking at that. And, I'm not predicting a winner's score. I know that's a fun thing to do. Maybe off the record I might. But really, as a designer, I know there's some guy, like last time one of my courses we played, Ricky tore up Glen Eagles, shot 33, right? Blew the field away. You can't predict if it's going to be at first place is going to win by a stroke or by 6, right? And so I'm actually looking at 10th place, because 10th place in a field like this is a strong performance. There's only a couple guys in the field who might be disappointed with that, right? And I'm thinking 10th is probably 18 down, something like that, and that's, they probably play 10:30, 10:35 golf and end up averaging 6 per round, and I think that's about where we stood. And before I seen some of the reports, I was thinking that would be better than 20, but now I'm down around 18 for that.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
All right, we're going to throw it to Mahmood for a question or two.
Hey, Leonard, this is Mahmood out in Milwaukee. Both this course and Glen Eagles were super long, like 10K in length. Kind of what comes first? Are you saying I want to design a par 70, I want to design a 10,000 foot course, or is it just like you look at the property and you're like, I have to have a 10,000 foot course because that's what the land is giving me? Like, how kind of is it like? Where do you figure that distance out?
Yeah, I mean, I do have a bias towards par 4s and par 5s. I think that's a good way to challenge the players. You know, these guys are so good. If you give them a bunch of par 3s, they practice it 4 or 5 times, muscle memory, experience. The margin of error there is not very high. So no matter how much they practice a tough 4 or 5, they're going to have a slightly different look. So I do have a bias toward length in that regard. But one of my favorite holes here is the shortest par 4. It's only 578. I don't want to use length as a variable that distinguishes one player from the next, that separates the field. I'd rather use precision. Sometimes you get a space where if you don't use length, you're not separating the field. So there's a couple holes here that are just pure rips, and that's what I had to work with. But, given the dream terrain, I'd have more holes like number 7 and fewer like number 16.
Awesome. Thank you, Leonard. Really looking forward to watching this weekend.
Great.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Leonard, let me ask you one bonus question.
Sure.
You got to have a fun one. Favorite course in the world that you did not design?
Oh, man, that's a little embarrassing because, I haven't traveled that much outside California.
What's one that stands out to you?
Brook Trails. Yeah, Brook Trails. The natural beauty just blows me away. There's a couple really great holes there, but just playing in old redwoods with a creek running through, it's a place to be. So yeah, that's second would be La Mirada, and maybe a tie, to be fair, because I played a lot of competitive rounds at La Mirada when I was younger, and so for me, even more than De La, I have really wonderful memories at that place, and so if I had one round to play, one of those two places would be where I go.
A little bit of old school, a little bit of new school.
Yeah.
I love it. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Great, guys. Within what appeared
All right, and now, last but certainly not least, our winner of last weekend on the Disc Golf Pro Tour Silver Series event, the Challenge at Goat Hill, Lisa Fajkus. Lisa, coming off the win, you got to feel pretty good. How are you?
Doing good, Jamie. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful course out here. I hear it's going to be a long, tough test of golf here for the FPO division. What's your kind of read on this brand new venue?
It's a lot of fun golf, beautiful place. OB is out there. Being on a ball golf course, it reminds me a little bit of last week at Goat Hill, minus the hills. I know it's a completely different course, but I just my mind goes there again, so I'm kind of keeping that same mindset, throwing a lot of the similar discs and shots, and just working on that power finesse game and getting myself in good placements.
Yeah, like last week at Goat Hill, this is a really long track, and maybe you're not known as one of the farther throwers on tour, but it really didn't matter come Sunday last week. How do you kind of replicate that success given the similarities, as you just mentioned?
Just trying to avoid the OBs. That was a real big thing last weekend, and as much as I can, just try to be putting for a birdie. And my goal is to make all those pars and keep it in bounds. Like I said, throw my shots, stay to my game plan, play within my game.
Well, it's worked out pretty well for you. I mean, with your win last weekend, that's now Silver Series victories and back-to-back seasons for you.
Mm-hmm.
When you're competing in those events, obviously you don't get the same number of Pro Tour points, but does it still feel like top-level competition to you? Is it any different than an Elite Series event like this one?
Yeah, it feels like an Elite Pro Tour, always with the cameras and the media at the Silver Series events. It's treated the same way. At this past one, we didn't have Paige and Katrina, Sarah, the usual suspects there to compete with, but it still has all the feels of big elite events for sure.
And at the end of the year last year, you still made a really deep run into the Disc Golf Pro Tour finale, despite not having a win during the regular season. How are you feeling like your season is heating up in 2021? Can we see you on that final grouping once again?
Yeah, of course. I don't see why not. I just feel like, I'm kind of a little bit closer to where I want to be, and just want to stay consistent out there and play good golf, throw good shots, make my putts.
Awesome. Lisa, Chris with Gatekeeper, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
What disc are you going to out here? What's your go-to disc and shot that you think you're going to need to rely on the most?
It's a 166 gram Halo Star Turn. I'm throwing that quite a lot out here on most of the drives, and it's given me that nice consistent stability in the wind, and it also gives me a slight turn, so it's really versatile.
Very cool. And then one last thing I've been asking everyone, what hole are you looking most to attack out here?
I really like hole 17. It has a peninsula green, so it's a really fun approach shot, and I like to, if I'm in position, probably just throw a nice backhand fairway at it and try to pin it.
Awesome. Well, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do one more question for you here.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of feedback about kind of the low ceilings, maybe forcing some more rollers off the tee by some of the field than you're used to seeing week in and week out. Just wondering, do you agree with that assessment for your own game, or what kind of shots are you really going to lean on?
Yeah. I guess the roller is one of the last shots I'm yet to learn as a even 16-year now throwing disc golf player, 10-year pro. I need to add a roller to my game, but I don't feel like it's the best shot out here. There's a lot of holes in the ground. There's a lot of mounds. The grass may not be the best in my opinion, but again, I don't throw rollers. But my game actually includes like low shots. Just naturally, my shots typically come out a bit low. I'm a little bit shorter, so low lines are favored in my game, so I can kind of punch those pretty nicely, so I'm looking forward to doing that.
Any expectations for this weekend, the finish you're looking for, or how are you going to measure success?
Yeah, definitely no expectations ever. Measuring success, just taking my time on every shot and putting everything into every shot, one thing at a time, and seeing what happens.
All right, should be a fun one. Good luck.
Thank you.